The mahogany boardroom doors of Reynolds Technologies felt heavier than usual that morning. Maybe it was the weight of the proposal in my briefcase, or maybe it was the knowledge that behind those doors sat 12 men who'd already decided I was too young to have a voice. At 26, I was the youngest executive in the company's history. My rapid rise from entry-level analyst to director of strategy had sparked whispers in every corner of our Chicago headquarters. Some said it was luck. Others hinted at family connections. None of them knew I'd spent the last year quietly acquiring shares through shell companies, preparing for this very day. Miss Chun. Robert Maxwell's voice dripped with faux courtesy as I entered. He'd been interim CEO since my father's death 6 months ago, and he wore the role like an ill-fitting suit, flashy but wrong at the edges. We weren't expecting you at this meeting. I smiled, taking my seat at the far end of the table. I'm still a board member, Robert. Even if some seem to forget that. He cleared his throat, shuffling papers with manicured hands. Yes, well, today's agenda is rather technical. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable reviewing the minutes later. I'm comfortable right here, I said, opening my laptop. Please continue. The other board members shifted uncomfortably. These men had known me since childhood, had watched me grow up in these halls. My father, James Chun, had built Reynolds Technologies from a small software company into a $2.8 billion enterprise. They'd expected his only daughter to take a ceremonial role after his death, show up for charity events, stay quiet in meetings, let the experienced leaders handle the real decisions. They didn't know that every summer internship, every holiday spent shadowing my father, every late night poring over company reports had been preparation for this moment. As I was saying, Maxwell continued, our Q3 projections show concerning trends in the Asian markets. I'm proposing a strategic pivot. You mean a fire sale? I cut in smoothly. Selling our semiconductor division to global tech for what? 40 cents on the dollar. The room fell silent. Maxwell's face tightened. Those documents are confidential. I'm a board member, I reminded him. And that division isn't struggling because of market trends. It's struggling because you've been deliberately undermining it to drive down its value. Miss Chun, Gregory Winters, our longest-serving board member, leaned forward. These are serious accusations. Perhaps your youth and emotional attachment to your father's company are clouding your judgment. I opened my briefcase, removing a thick folder. No, Mr. Winters. My judgment is perfectly clear. Just like the evidence of systematic mismanagement I've compiled. Would you like to see the numbers? Maxwell's laugh was sharp, dismissive. Lisa, dear, you're 26. You've never run a company. Leave the complex decisions to those with experience. Experience like forcing out talented engineers? I asked quietly. Or experience like shorting our own stock while telling shareholders everything's fine? His smile faltered. Around the table, other board members began shifting papers, avoiding eye contact. I have a counter-proposal, I said, pressing a button on my phone. Right on cue, my assistant Sarah entered, distributing sealed envelopes to each board member. What's this? Maxwell demanded. The truth, I replied. Full documentation of every questionable decision made since my father's death. Every manipulated report, every artificial downturn, every whispered conversation with global tech about a friendly takeover. This is absurd, Maxwell sputtered. You can't possibly understand the complexities. I understand perfectly, I cut in. Just like I understand that as of this morning, I own 51% of Reynolds Technologies' voting shares. The silence that followed was deafening. Maxwell's face went from red to white in seconds. That's impossible. The share registry shows various investment firms and private holdings, I finished. All of which I control. Did you really think I spent the last year just watching you dismantle my father's legacy? Gregory Winters removed his glasses, cleaning them slowly. Lisa, if what you're saying is true, check the documents, Mr. Winters. Everything's there, including the share transfers confirmed this morning. Maxwell stood abruptly, his chair scraping against hardwood. This is a trick. Some naive power play. Sit down, Robert, I said quietly. Or should I share the email thread about your planned golden parachute after the global tech sale? He sank back into his chair, deflated. Around the table, board members were frantically flipping through the documents, their faces showing a mix of shock and dawning comprehension. As controlling shareholder, I continued, I'm calling for an immediate vote on leadership. Unless anyone objects. The silence was my answer. One by one, they shook their heads, unable to meet my eyes. Excellent. First order of business. Robert Maxwell's termination, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Right on cue, 2 security officers entered. Maxwell stood again, straightening his tie with trembling hands. You'll regret this, he hissed. You're too young, too inexperienced. You'll run this company into the ground. I smiled, remembering my father's words from years ago. Age is just a number, Lisa. Vision, that's what matters. We'll see, I replied. Meeting adjourned. As Maxwell was let out, I moved to the head of the table, my father's old seat. The leather chair still smelled faintly of his cologne. Miss Chun, Gregory Winters cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss transition plans. Already done, I said, nodding to Sarah. She began distributing new folders. Complete restructuring proposal, department by department. I've spent 6 months preparing for this day, gentlemen. The only question is, are you with me or do I need to call for more votes? They exchanged glances, these men who'd underestimated me for years. Then slowly Gregory Winters smiled. Your father would be proud, he said quietly. What's our first move? Chairman, the next few weeks were a blur of activity. I moved into the CEO's office, my father's old space, but kept his furniture, his art, his essence. Every morning, I arrived before sunrise just like he had. Every evening, I was the last to leave, reviewing reports and planning our next steps. The press had a field day with the story. 26-year-old heiress takes control in shocking boardroom coup. They focused on my age, my gender, my perceived inexperience. None of them looked at the real story, the months of careful planning, the strategic share acquisitions, the detailed vision for Reynolds' future. 1 month after the takeover, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly projections when Sarah buzzed in. Global Tech's CEO is here to see you. I smiled, straightening my father's old nameplate on the desk. Send him in. Michael Porter strode in, all corporate confidence and expensive suit. He'd been my father's friend once, before ambition turned him into a rival. Lisa, he said, helping himself to a seat. Quite a show you've put on. The board coup, the restructuring announcements. Very dramatic. Thank you, I replied coolly. But I assume you're not here to compliment my management style. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. No, I'm here about our deal with Maxwell. The semiconductor division is no longer for sale, I finished. In fact, we're doubling its research budget and expanding the team. His smile vanished. We had an understanding. You had an understanding with a corrupt executive who's no longer with the company. I have an understanding of our true market value. Listen, he leaned forward, voice dropping. You're young, new to this game. Don't make enemies you don't need. I met his gaze steadily. I'm not making enemies, Michael. I'm protecting what's mine. The deal is off. Feel free to show yourself out. After he left, Sarah appeared with fresh coffee and a stack of resumes. The engineering team you wanted to recruit? 3 have already accepted offers to return. I nodded, thinking of the talented people Maxwell had pushed out. Good. Get them started on the quantum computing project immediately. That's our future, not selling ourselves piece by piece. The next board meeting was different. Gone was the condescension, the dismissive glances, the whispered doubts. Instead, there was attention, sharp, focused, maybe even a little afraid. I walked them through our new strategy. Aggressive expansion in emerging technologies, strategic acquisitions in the AI sector, doubled research budgets across all divisions. The numbers were bold, the timeline aggressive. This is ambitious, Gregory Winters said carefully. It's necessary, I corrected. We've played safe too long, let others set the pace. That ends now. By the 3rd month, our stock had risen 40%. The semiconductor division, far from struggling, was introducing breakthrough technology in quantum processing. The press narrative shifted from heiress takes control to tech prodigy revolutionizes industry. I kept my father's old photos on the office walls, reminders of the legacy I was building on. Sometimes, late at night, I'd look at them and wonder what he'd think of all this. One evening, as I reviewed acquisition proposals, Sarah buzzed in. Robert Maxwell is in the lobby. He's demanding to see you. I thought for a moment. Send him up. He looked different. Cheaper suit, grayer hair, the polished confidence replaced by desperate energy. You've done well, he said without preamble. Better than I expected. That wasn't difficult, I replied. Your expectations were rather low. He paced the office, glancing at the photos, the awards, the evidence of success he'd never achieved. I was wrong about you. Yes. I could help, he said suddenly. Consult, advise. I still have connections. No, I cut in quietly. You don't. Not anymore. He stopped pacing, shoulders slumping. I underestimated you. Everyone did, I said. That was their mistake. After he left, I stood at the window, watching the Chicago skyline glitter in the dusk. My phone buzzed, another acquisition target, another opportunity to grow. 6 months after taking control, I called another board meeting. The same mahogany doors, the same long table, but everything else had changed. Q2 results show revenue up 62%, I began. Market cap has doubled. The quantum computing patent was approved this morning. Around the table, heads nodded. These men who'd dismissed me now looked to me for leadership, for vision. Miss Chun, Gregory Winters spoke up. I think I speak for everyone when I say we were wrong. About your age, your capabilities, everything. I looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes. Thank you, but I didn't do this for validation. I did it because it needed to be done. Later that evening, as the office quieted, Sarah brought in one last document. The final share transfer that would consolidate my control of the company. They're calling you the new face of tech leadership, she said, scanning headlines on her tablet. Young, innovative, fearless. I signed the papers, thinking of that first board meeting, the whispers, the doubts. They can call me whatever they want. The results speak for themselves. Your father would be proud, she added softly. I touched his old nameplate, now sitting beside mine on the desk. He taught me that age is just a number. Vision, execution, determination, those are what matter. And now, I smiled, looking out at the city lights. Now we build something even bigger. The next morning, I arrived before sunrise, just like always. The boardroom doors felt lighter now, the mahogany worn smooth by success and certainty. Inside, I took my seat at the head of the table. Not just a seat anymore, but a symbol of what happens when determination meets opportunity, when youth meets vision, when everyone's expectations become fuel for something extraordinary. The company wasn't just surviving anymore. It was revolutionizing industries, setting trends, breaking barriers. And me? I wasn't just James Chen's daughter anymore. I was chairman, CEO, leader, not despite my age, but because I'd never let it define me. If you've ever been told you're too young, too inexperienced, too anything to achieve your dreams, remember this. Age is just a number. Vision, determination, and careful planning. Those are what truly matter. And sometimes the best response to you can't is simply to do it anyway, quietly and strategically, until success becomes too loud to ignore. Subscribe for more stories about breaking barriers, defying expectations, and building legacies that matter. Because every success story starts with someone saying, you can't, and someone else proving them wrong. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.